Jolene's smile didn't fade. It shattered. It happened in the span of a single second, right between the moment Margot clicked the remote and the next slide appeared on the 55-inch screen I had mounted above the fireplace. 1 second my sister was basking in the glow of 30 guests holding her glass of Cabernet like a scepter ready to receive another round of applause for simply existing. The next second the air left the room. The jazz playlist I had curated so carefully was still playing softly through the speakers, a slow, indifferent saxophone that felt obscene against the sudden silence of the crowd. The smell of the low country shrimp boil wafted in from the deck, thick with bay leaf and lemon and cayenne mixing with the scent of expensive perfume and sudden sharp panic. I stood by the kitchen island, my hands resting on the cool quartz. I should have felt triumphant. That was what the book said, wasn't it? That was what the movies promised. The moment the villain is unmasked, the hero stands tall, chest swelling with vindication. But I didn't feel tall. I felt heavy. My legs ached from standing in heels for 3 hours. My jaw was sore from grinding my teeth behind a polite smile. I looked at my mother sitting in the front row next to Mrs. Bellamy. Donna's face had gone the color of old parchment. Her mouth was open just slightly, a word dying on her lips before it could be born. Then I looked at Travis. He was standing by the back sliding door away from everyone. He wasn't looking at his wife. He was looking down at his beer bottle, his shoulders hunched, carrying the weight of the man who had placed the camera that caught everything. Jolene's eyes darted from the screen to me. The glass in her hand tilted. Red wine sloshed over the rim, staining her white linen cuff, blood dark against the pristine fabric. "Bree," she whispered. It was the first honest sound she had made in 40 years. I didn't answer. I just watched the stain spread. 17 days earlier, the only thing staining that deck was the golden light of a North Carolina sunset. The house was empty. Not just empty of furniture, but empty of history. No arguments had ever happened here. No doors had been slammed. No one had ever sighed loudly in the kitchen to signal that they were suffering and you were expected to ask why. It smelled of fresh latex paint and sawdust and the specific briny scent of the Atlantic Ocean that poured in through the open sliding doors. I walked from the foyer to the great room, my sandals clapping against the refinished heart pine floors. The sound echoed crisp and clean. I reached into the pocket of my shorts and pulled out the keys. They were heavy, jagged metal that felt warm from my body heat. I ran my thumb over the ridges. Mine. I walked to the kitchen. I touched the backsplash, running my fingers over the subway tile I had chosen. Not Donna. Me. I opened a drawer and closed it just to hear the soft close mechanism catch. Smooth. Silent. I walked into the master bedroom, the one that faced the water, and stood in the center of the room. This was where my bed would go. A bed I wouldn't have to share with guilt or obligation. My phone buzzed in my back pocket. I ignored it. I didn't want to let the world in yet. I walked out onto the deck and leaned against the railing. The ocean was churning 30 yards away, gray-blue and white-capped, indifferent to me. I loved that about it. The ocean didn't care if I was a good daughter. It didn't care if I had called my mother back. It just was. The phone buzzed again. Reed. I slid the screen to answer. "Hey! You in?" Reed's voice was like the coast itself, gravel and salt and ease. I could hear the wind in the background on his end, probably down at the marina tying off the double trouble after a charter. "I'm in," I said. My voice sounded different in the salt air, lighter, younger. "Keys work. Keys work, a sea works. The water pressure is incredible." "And the family?" Reed asked. He didn't have to elaborate. I looked out at the horizon where the water met the sky in a bruised purple line. "I haven't told them yet." "Bree." "I know." "You closed yesterday. You moved in today. You bought a 3-bedroom villa on the Outer Banks with your own money, cash down, no help." Reed paused, and I heard the snap of a beverage can opening. "You're 44 years old, Bree. You're a federal contract researcher. Why are you acting like you stole a candy bar?" "I'm not..." I said, picking at a splinter on the railing. I'm just savoring it before the commentary starts. Before Mom tells me I overpaid, or Dad asks if the flood insurance is adequate, or Jolene asks why I need 3 bedrooms when I don't have kids. They're gonna find out eventually. I know, just not today. Today is mine. I hung up and walked back inside. In the corner of the living room, I had set up a folding card table, the only piece of furniture currently in the house. On it sat a stack of paperwork 3 inches thick. NOAA grant applications, reef density charts, the finalized deed to the property. It was a mess, a chaotic pile of white paper that represented 13 years of working double shifts on research vessels, smelling like diesel and fish guts, saving every dollar while my friends went to Europe or bought Teslas. I sat on the floor with my back against the wall, my knees pulled up to my chest. The sun dipped lower, painting squares of orange light across the empty floor. It was so quiet. Then the phone rang again. It wasn't Reed. The ringtone was the default one, but it sounded louder in the empty house, sharper, demanding. I looked at the screen. Mom. My stomach did that thing it always did, a physical clench, a reflex drilled into me since childhood. The tightness started in my throat and radiated down to my chest. I stared at the name. I could let it go to voicemail. I could claim I was out on the boat, out of range. But I was the good daughter. The good daughter answers. I pressed talk. Hi, Mom. Bree, honey. Her voice was sweet, that specific Midwest pleasantness that sounds like warm syrup poured over a razor blade. I heard the most wonderful news from your Aunt Ruth. You actually went through with it. You bought that little beach place. I closed my eyes. Little. 3 bedrooms, 2.5 baths, ocean front. It's not, little Mom. It's a villa. And yes, I closed yesterday. Well, word travels fast in this family, you know that. Listen, your father and I have been talking. I braced myself against the wall. The floor felt hard under my sit bones. Okay. We had the most wonderful idea. Donna paused, waiting for me to ask. I didn't. She continued anyway, undeterred by my silence. Jolene's family, you know how cramped they've been in that rental on Maple Court. And Travis's commute is just killing them, and with the kids getting so big, well, we thought since you have all that space and it's just you. She let the word hang there. You. Singular. Incomplete. You want Jolene to move into my house, I said. My voice was flat. Not move in, honey. Don't be dramatic, just use it. For a while. Maybe through the summer and into the fall. Just until Travis gets his feet under him. You know Jolene's been under so much stress with the blog and the brand, and she needs a serene environment to create. Mom, I just bought this house. I haven't even unpacked a box. And that's wonderful. But family helps family, Bree. That's who we are. You've always been the strong one. You don't need much. Jolene needs support right now. I looked at the folding table, at the NOAA grant paperwork, at the 13 years of my life stacked in that pile. What about what I need? I asked. The question felt foreign in my mouth. Silence stretched on the line. A long, heavy silence. When Donna spoke again, the syrup was gone. The voice was cold, clipped the voice of the school secretary who docked your pay for being 2 minutes late. I'm not going to fight about this, Bree. Your father agrees. If you can't share with your own sister, if you're going to be selfish about a house you barely live in. I do live in it. I'm here right now. Then I suppose we know where your priorities are. Honestly, Bree, sometimes I wonder where you got this cold streak. Certainly not from me. My hand was gripping the phone so hard my fingers ached. I could feel the old programming kicking in the urge to say, okay, fine, we'll work something out. I'm sorry. It was automatic. It was survival. But then I looked at the keys lying on the floor next to me. They caught the last ray of sunlight. No, I said. Excuse me. I said, no, Mom. This is my home. I am living in it. Jolene cannot have it. Fine. The word was a gunshot. Then I guess Jolene was right about you. The line went dead. I sat there in the darkening room, the silence rushing back in to fill the space Donna had vacated. Jolene was right about you. What did that mean? What had Jolene said? My hand was trembling, not a little, a lot. I set the phone down on the floor and pulled my knees tighter to my chest. I had said no. I had drawn a line. I thought I would feel liberated. I thought I would feel like the women in the magazines who set boundaries and drink herbal tea. Instead, I felt nauseous. I felt like I had just stepped off a ledge in the dark, and I didn't know how far down the bottom was. The phone rang again. I flinched. It was Reed. "How'd the call go?" he asked. "About how you'd expect." I rested my forehead on my knees. "She asked for the house." "Yep." I said no. "Good for you." She hung up on me. Reed was quiet for a moment. I could hear the wind whipping against his phone microphone. "You know, Bree," he said softly, "some fights aren't about winning. They're about finding out what you're actually fighting for." I didn't answer him. I sat on the floor of my empty $1 million house holding keys that suddenly felt heavier than lead. I had said no. But I knew Donna Sutter. Donna didn't hear no. She heard try harder. She heard punish her until she breaks. Night fell fully over the Outer Banks. The ocean kept crashing loud and relentless. I locked the front door, turned the deadbolt, and checked it twice. But as I walked up the stairs to my empty bedroom, I knew that a deadbolt wasn't going to be enough. The war had started, and I was the only one who didn't know I was already under siege. 3 days later, I couldn't sleep. The house made noises at night that I wasn't used to yet. The wind rattled the storm shutters on the east side, and the refrigerator hummed with a low, aggressive vibration. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling fan, cutting shadows through the moonlight, my phone glowing in my hand. I was doing what I always did when the anxiety gnawed at me: research. I told myself I was just checking in, just seeing how they were doing. But really, I was looking for ammunition. If Donna called back, and she would call back, I wanted to know the landscape. I pulled up Instagram. I typed in Jolene Sutter style. Her profile picture was perfect, of course. Jolene in an oversized straw hat laughing at something off camera holding a mimosa. The bio read Mom Boss, Coastal Living Enthusiast, Brand Ambassador, Psalms 46:5. I scrolled. The last post was from 8 months ago. A photo of Jolene and Travis on a beach somewhere, Florida maybe. The caption, "Living our best coastal life." So grateful for this journey. #blessed, #vacation mode. I scrolled down. Before that, the posts were sporadic. A blurry photo of a latte. A quote card about haters. Another selfie heavily filtered. I clicked on the follower count. 3,421. I tapped through the list. Bots. Every single one. She had bought them. I tapped the link in her bio for her blog. 404 error. This domain has expired. I lay there in the dark, the blue light of the screen illuminating the dust motes dancing in the air. This was the career Donna had bragged about to Aunt Ruth at Thanksgiving. This was the brand that was causing Jolene so much stress she needed a seaside villa to recover. It was a ghost town. An empty storefront with a live, laugh, love sign in the window and nothing on the shelves. I should have felt vindicated. Here was the proof that the golden child was tarnished. But instead, I felt a strange, sour pity in the back of my throat. And then, immediately, anger at the pity. Pity was the trap. Pity was the currency I had been paying with for decades. Pity was why I wrote the check for the boutique that failed. Pity was why I paid for the car repair when Travis lost his wallet. I closed the app. The phone buzzed in my hand, startling me. A text message. Jolene. I stared at the name. We hadn't spoken since Christmas when she made a joke about my spinster apartment that made the whole table laugh. Hey, sis. Mom told me about the beach house. So happy for you. We should talk about the family using it this summer. The kids would love it. Call me the emojis, the exclamation points. The assumption that Mom told me was the same thing as Bree agreed. The way we should talk was just code for you should surrender. I didn't reply. I turned off the phone and set it on the nightstand face down. Outside, the ocean roared, eating away at the shoreline grain by grain. I didn't know it then, but the scrolling hadn't shown me the half of it. I thought I was looking at a failed influencer career. I thought I was looking at a sister who was struggling and lying about it to save face. I didn't know I was looking at a crime scene. 5 days later, I sat in a leather chair that smelled like lemon polish and billable hours. Margot Kincaid's office in Nag's Head was exactly like Margot herself. Sharp edges, no clutter, and a view of the ocean that felt less like scenery and more like surveillance. Margot was 56 with silver hair cut in a pixie crop that made her look aerodynamic. She was wearing a blazer despite the humid June heat. She didn't hug me when I walked in. She shook my hand, her grip firm enough to crack a walnut. I had come for a property consultation. After the phone call with my mother after the demands about Jolene moving in, I wanted to know where I stood. I wanted a lawyer to tell me that my deed was ironclad, that family law couldn't touch a title held in a single name, that being a good sister wasn't a legal obligation. Margot was typing on her keyboard, the rhythmic clack, 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 filling the silence. Standard procedure, she had said. I'm just going to pull a full asset and liability check. If your family decides to get creative with claims about elder care or dependency, we need to know exactly what your financial footprint looks like. I sipped the black coffee her paralegal had poured me. It was strong and bitter, just the way I liked it. I felt calm. My credit was perfect. I had an 800 score. I paid my bills on the first of the month. I was the boring Sutter, the responsible one. The typing stopped. It didn't taper off. It stopped abruptly mid-sentence. I looked up. Margot was staring at her monitor. She took off her reading glasses, cleaned them with a microfiber cloth, put them back on, and leaned closer to the screen. Bree, she said. Her voice had dropped an octave. When did you open a Capital One Platinum card? I frowned, setting my coffee cup down. I didn't. I have the Chase Sapphire for travel and the Credit Union Visa for emergencies. That's it. Margot didn't look at me. She clicked the mouse once, twice. You do now, she said. Opened 14 months ago. Current balance is $18,240. The room seemed to tilt to the left. Just a few degrees. That is not mine, I said. There are two more. A Discover card with $16,400 and a Synchrony account with $12,800. I gripped the armrests of the chair. The leather squeaked under my palms. Margot, I didn't open any of those. I haven't applied for credit since I bought my car 3 years ago. Margot swiveled the monitor toward me. Look at the screen, Bree. I looked. It was a wall of numbers, but my eyes locked onto the personal information section. My name, Bree Annette Sutter. My social security number, the last 4 digits sitting there like a betrayal. Security question, mother's maiden name. Collins. And then the billing address. It wasn't my P.O. box in Rodanthe. It wasn't my old apartment in Kill Devil Hills. 1847 Maple Court, Greenfield, Indiana. I stopped breathing. I knew that zip code. I knew that street. I knew the peeling gray paint on the mailbox and the hydrangeas that died every year because nobody watered them. That is my sister's house, I whispered. Margot took her glasses off completely and set them on the desk. She folded her hands. Bree, I need to tell you something, and I need you to hear it clearly. This isn't a billing error. This isn't a mix-up. Someone used your social security number, your mother's maiden name, and your personal information to open 3 credit lines totaling $47,000, and they mailed the statements to your sister's address. Jolene wouldn't, I said. The reflex was instant. It was the same reflex that made me apologize when Donna insulted me. Jolene is irresponsible. She's selfish. But she's not a criminal. Margot didn't argue. She just reached for the mouse and clicked print. The laser printer in the corner hummed to life. It was a loud, churning sound. Whir, click, slide, whir, click, slide. 3 pages. Margot stood up and walked to the printer. She picked up the pages. The paper was still warm. She handed them to me. I held the report. My fingers left damp marks on the edges. $18,000 on the Capital One card. The transaction history was a blur of names I recognized. Sephora, Nordstrom, Delta Airlines, the Ritz-Carlton Orlando. Jolene's trip last year, the one she said Travis got a bonus for. My stomach turned over. She stole my money, I said. No, Margot said. She stole your name. That is worse. Money you can earn back. Your identity is your life. I looked at the dates. The first account was opened 3 weeks after I flew home to take care of Dad after his surgery. I had left my purse on the kitchen counter while I sat with him in the hospital. I had trusted them. I had slept in my childhood bedroom and cooked their meals and scrubbed their floors, and while I was doing that, someone had reached into my bag and copied my Social Security card. $47,000. While I was working double shifts on research boats, eating ramen, saving for a down payment, while I was sending check after check to help with Dad's medicine, while I was paying off the loan for her boutique. Jolene was taking vacations on my credit. I looked up at Margot. My vision was blurry at the edges. What do I do? Call the police? Margot poured a glass of water from a pitcher on her desk. She handed it to me. You could, she said. You could file a police report right now. We could dispute the charges. We could press federal charges for identity theft and wire fraud. But I asked. I could hear the but in her voice. But then it goes into the system, Margot said. The police will investigate. They will contact Jolene. She will deny it. Your mother will get involved. She will say it was a misunderstanding or that you gave Jolene permission and you are lying now. It will become a messy private war of he said, she said, and you will look like the daughter trying to send her sister to jail. I drank the water. It was cold, but it didn't cool the fire starting in my chest. So what do I do? Margot leaned back in her chair. She looked at me. Really looked at me with eyes that had seen everything people do to each other when money is involved. Evidence is only powerful when it is a surprise, Bree. If you call Jolene now, she has time to destroy records. She has time to come up with a story. She has time to make your mother believe her. I thought about the housewarming party. The party Donna had demanded. The party Jolene was so excited to attend. Don't tell them, Margot said. Not yet. Let them come to you. Let them think they are safe. Let them think you are the same Bree who always writes the check and looks the other way. And while they are getting comfortable, we are going to build a file so thick and so undeniable that when you finally drop it on the table, they won't be able to breathe, let alone lie. I looked down at the paper in my hand. 1847 Maple Court. Okay, I said. That evening, the sunset over the Pamlico Sound was a bruise of purple and angry orange. I stood on the deck of my new house. The railing was rough under my hands, salt-crusted wood that still needed a second coat of sealant. Inside, Reed was cooking. I could smell garlic and butter and the fresh red drum he had caught that morning. It was a domestic smell, a safe smell. It felt like a lie. The sliding door opened and Reed stepped out. He was holding 2 plates. He saw my face and stopped. He didn't ask if I was okay. Reed never asked questions he already knew the answers to. Talk to me, he said. I pulled the folded credit report out of my back pocket. I handed it to him. Reed set the plates down on the outdoor table. He wiped his hands on his jeans and took the papers. He read in silence. The only sound was the wind chimes and the distant hum of a boat engine out on the water. He exhaled a long, sharp sound through his nose. Jesus Christ, Bree. 47,000, I said. My voice sounded hollow, like it was coming from someone else. Reed flipped to the second page. He saw the address. He shook his head, a slow, dark movement. "You calling the cops? Margot says I could," I said. I leaned back against the railing, crossing my arms to keep them from shaking. I could file a report. I could send the FBI to Greenfield, but then it is just legal. It goes through the system. Maybe she gets charged. Maybe she gets probation. And Mom will say I am tearing the family apart over money. She will say I should have just asked Jolene to pay it back. Dad will go silent. And I will win on paper and lose everything else. Reed looked at me. Is there an everything else worth saving? I looked out at the water. I thought about Thanksgiving dinners where we all pretended to like each other. I thought about heart emojis from a woman who stole my name. "What do you want to do?" Reed asked. "I don't know yet," I said. I turned away from the water to look at him. But I know what I don't want. I don't want to hand this to a system and hope for the best. I want them to see. I want Mom to see who Jolene really is, not from a police report, from Jolene's own mouth. I want the truth to stand in the middle of the room and scream. Reed picked up his beer. He took a long drink. "That sounds like revenge." "Maybe it is." "Nothing wrong with that," Reed said. He handed me the papers back. "Just know what you are fighting for." I took the report. I folded it along the creases, sharp and precise. I put it back in my pocket. It felt hot against my hip like a live coal. Margot said evidence is only powerful when it is a surprise. Okay. Then I would wait. I would let them drive down here. I would let them walk into my house. I would let them drink my wine and compliment my view and think they had won. And then I would give Jolene a surprise she would never forget. Reed handed me a plate. "Eat," he said. "You're gonna need your strength." I took the plate. The fish was perfectly cooked, the air was sweet, the house was mine. But inside my pocket, 3 pages of paper were burning a hole through everything I thought I knew about love. Someone else knew. I could feel it. Secrets this big don't live in a vacuum. Someone else had to know. And I was going to find them. The morning sun hit the folding table in my home office with a deceptive gentleness. It was Thursday, 6 days after I had told my mother no, and the silence from Indiana had curdled into something heavy. I sat with my hands wrapped around a mug of coffee that had gone lukewarm, staring at my laptop screen. The window was open, letting in the sound of the gulls fighting over breakfast on the pier and the rhythmic slap of water against the pilings. It should have been peaceful. It felt like the quiet before a hurricane makes landfall. I clicked through my inbox. NOAA grant updates. A newsletter from the Marine Biology Department. A promotional email for boat insurance. Then a subject line that stopped my breath. About your credit. Don't delete this. The sender was t.briggs.secure@protonmail.com. I didn't know the address, but I knew the name. Briggs, Travis, my brother-in-law. The man who had spent the last 10 years fading into the beige wallpaper of my parents' house saying yes ma'am to Donna and carrying Jolene's shopping bags. I opened the email. My hand hovered over the trackpad. "Bree, this is Travis, Jolene's husband. I know about the credit cards. I know about all of it. I found the statements in her dresser 2 months ago. There is more you don't know. I need to talk to you, but it can't be on my regular phone. Please call this number. I'm trying to do the right thing for my kids." He included a number with an Indiana area code. I sat back in my chair, the plastic creaking under my weight. Travis Briggs. The electrician who drank light beer in the corner at Christmas and looked tired. I had exchanged maybe 50 sentences with him in a decade. I always assumed he was just enduring. Just surviving the Sutter family gravity like the rest of us. I picked up my phone. I didn't use my cell. I opened the encrypted calling app Margot had made me install the day before. He answered on the first ring. "Thank you for not hanging up," he said. His voice was low, rough with the morning, or maybe just nerves. "I almost did," I said. "I wouldn't blame you. Your family." Bree, I gotta be straight with you. I ain't a good man in all this. I looked the other way too long. But I got 2 kids and I found out my wife has been lying about everything. Everything meaning I asked. Everything meaning the credit cards in your name are the tip of it. I heard him exhale a sound like a tire losing air. She is in debt, Bree. Real debt. Personal debt. Another 60,000 at least. She hasn't worked in 2 years. The blog, the influencer thing, it is all fake. Bought followers. No income. I looked at the stack of paperwork on my desk. $60,000. And the house I asked. Why does she want my house so bad? Because we are getting evicted, Travis said. We are 4 months behind on rent. The landlord gave us 30 days notice last week. That is why your mama is pushing so hard. She thinks Jolene just needs a vacation. Jolene needs a roof. The pieces clicked into place with a sickening precision. The urgency, the demand for a guest agreement. They weren't looking for a summer getaway. They were looking for a lifeboat. And the affair I asked. The silence told me everything. His name is Cade Travis said. His voice cracked. Personal trainer at the Planet Fitness in Greenfield. 6 months. Maybe longer. Does Mom know? I asked. Travis laughed a short, bitter bark. Your mama calls every Sunday. Jolene puts on her phone voice. You know the one. Oh, everything is great, Mom. Travis just got a raise. The kids are thriving, and Donna eats it up because Donna needs it to be true. I looked out at the ocean. It was churning gray and restless. Why are you telling me this, Travis? Because I am filing for divorce, he said. And I need someone who knows the truth to be on the record. Jolene will lie. She will say I am abusive or I am crazy. Your mama will back her. I need a witness. And you need evidence. So this is transactional, I said. Call it whatever you want, he said. I call it 2 people who got screwed by the same person finally comparing notes. I sat with the phone pressed against my ear, listening to the breathing of a man I barely knew. He wasn't the quiet electrician anymore. He was a man holding a grenade looking for someone to help him pull the pin. I have a lawyer, I said. Her name is Margot Kincaid. She is going to want to talk to you. When? Yesterday. Margot's office smelled of stale coffee and laser printer toner. It was Friday afternoon, 1 week since the phone call that started the war. Margot had spread everything out on her mahogany desk like a surgeon laying out instruments. My credit report, screenshots of Jolene's fake Instagram engagement, and now the documents Travis had scanned and sent over encrypted email. Eviction notices, past due notices, hotel receipts with names I didn't recognize. Travis was on the speakerphone. His voice sounded tinny but steady. All right, Margot said, clasping her hands. Identity theft, financial fraud, enough to bury her. But we have already discussed why pressing charges feeds Donna's narrative. Travis spoke up from the phone. So what is the alternative? We build a comprehensive case, Margot said, and we present it in a context where Jolene cannot run, cannot spin, and cannot gaslight. A context where witnesses are present. I looked at the photos of my sister on the desk. Jolene smiling, Jolene posing, Jolene lying. You want a trial? I said. I want something better than a trial, Margot said. She leaned forward, her eyes bright behind her rimless glasses. Trials take years. I want a moment. One evening, where everything Jolene has built, the image, the lies, the story Donna has been selling to the world, collapses in front of the people who have been buying it. The room went quiet. I could hear the hum of the air conditioner. A party, I said. A housewarming, Margot corrected. We sat with the idea. It was monstrous. It was perfect. We invite everyone, Margot said. Donna and Hank, Jolene and Travis, Aunt Ruth, Uncle Dale. Those church friends your mother is always trying to impress. We bill it as a celebration, a family reunion at the new villa. And then Travis asked. And then we have a presentation, Margot said. A slideshow. We tell them it is about family estate planning, boring enough to lower their defenses. But Slide 7 is the truth. Travis made a sound that might have been a laugh or a sob. She will never come if she suspects anything. She won't suspect anything, I said. The realization hit me with the force of a wave. Because Mom will make her come. When Donna hears I am throwing a party for the family at the beach villa, she won't be able to resist showing off. She will drag Jolene here by her hair if she has to. Margot nodded. The invitation has to be warm. Generous. It has to look like an olive branch. I looked at my hands. They were calloused from handling ropes and nets. They were honest hands. Am I a bad person for this? I asked. Margot picked up the credit report. She stole $47,000 of your identity, Bree. She is cheating on me and bankrupting my kid's future, Travis said from the speaker. You are not a bad person, Margot said softly. You are a person who ran out of other options. Saturday morning found me at my desk staring at a blank text message field. I had written and deleted the message 5 times. I had never been the manipulative one in this family. That was Jolene's domain, but I had watched a master at work for 44 years. I typed. Mom, I have been thinking about what you said. You are right. Family is family. I am having a housewarming party next Saturday. I want everyone there. Jolene, Travis, the kids, you and Dad. Aunt Ruth, Uncle Dale. Even your church group, Mrs. Bellamy and the Prestons. I want to celebrate this house the way it should be celebrated with the people I love. Please come. I am sorry we fought. I stared at the last sentence. I am sorry we fought. I wasn't sorry. I was furious. I was burning with a cold, hard rage that terrified me. But the words were bait, and Donna was a fish who had never once refused a hook that promised her an audience. I hit send. I put the phone down on the table and waited. I counted the seconds. 1, 2, 3. The phone rang within 4 minutes. Bree Honey Donna's voice exploded through the speaker, triumphant, vindicated. I knew you would come around. I told Hank, I said she just needs time. She just needs to process. Hi, Mom. Of course we are coming. I will tell Ruth immediately. Oh, Mrs. Bellamy will just love that house. She has been dying to see what you bought. And Jolene? I asked. I will make sure she comes, Donna said. She will be thrilled, honey. You know she has been dying to see it. Yes, dying. Tell her to bring the kids, I said. I have a pool. Oh, they will just love that. We will drive down Friday. We can make a whole weekend of it. Great, I said. I will see you then. I hung up. My hand was sweating. I didn't stop there. I pulled up Jolene's contact. I typed a direct message. Short, sweet, sisterly. Hey Joe, I am throwing a housewarming next Saturday. Mom is coming, the whole family. I would really love it if you guys came. The kids can swim. It will be fun. Jolene responded in under 60 seconds. OMG, yes, can't wait. Sending you so much love, sis. 3 exclamation marks. 3 emojis. Zero awareness that she was walking into the most expensive housewarming gift she would ever receive. She thought she had won. She thought I had rolled over just like I always did. She thought the ATM was open for business again. I put down the phone and opened my laptop. I created a new document. I shared it with Margot and Travis. I typed the header. The housewarming. Project plan. Date Saturday, June 24th. Guests. 30 confirmed. Presentation estate planning / financial overview. Evidence credit reports, affidavits, audio recordings. I walked out to the deck. The sun was high and bright, bleaching the color out of the wood. In 2 weeks, 30 people would stand right here. They would drink my wine, they would eat my food, and they would watch my sister's world collapse. The ocean didn't look different. The air didn't taste different. But I was different. I had crossed something. Not a line in the sand, but a line inside myself. No more checks. No more it is fine. No more sitting on the floor of an empty house crying over keys I had paid for. This house was mine. And the truth was coming home. Monday afternoon found me sitting in the living room of the villa, watching my father age in real time on the screen of my phone. I had timed the call carefully. Tuesday mornings were Donna's Bible study, but Monday afternoons were usually when she went to the grocery store, leaving Hank unsupervised for exactly 60 minutes. It was the only window I had to speak to the man without the manager present. "Dad," I said, "you look tired." "I'm fine," Hank said. His face was pixelated and gray, the skin around his jaw loose and papery. He was sitting in his recliner, the brown leather one that had molded to the shape of his back over 20 years. Behind him, the television was muted, showing a baseball game he wasn't watching. "You are wheezing," I said. "Just a cold." "Summer cold. They hang on." He turned his head to look out the front window, checking the driveway for Donna's car. The movement was stiff-guarded. When he turned back, a cough rattled in his chest, deep and wet, the sound of fluid where air should be. He brought a fist to his mouth to stifle it, his shoulders curling inward. I watched his other hand, the one off-camera, reach down toward the side table. I heard the distinct rattle of plastic against plastic, an orange prescription bottle. "What is that?" I asked. Hank froze. He moved his hand away from the camera, sliding the bottle under a magazine. "Nothing." "Vitamins. Dad, vitamins don't come in prescription bottles. Bree, leave it alone." He said it with the specific tone he used when he meant I cannot fight you and your mother at the same time. I leaned back against my sofa, the silence of my empty house pressing against my ears. I looked at the man who had taught me how to fish, how to tie a knot, how to be quiet so I wouldn't disturb the water. I saw the gray tint to his lips. I saw the way his chest heaved, working twice as hard to pull in half as much oxygen. And suddenly, the picture rearranged itself. Donna didn't just want the villa for Jolene. That was the cover story. Donna wanted the villa because she was terrified. She was watching her husband fade in that dark, dusty living room in Indiana, and she wanted him somewhere with sea air and sunlight. But Donna Sutter didn't know how to ask for help. Asking required vulnerability. Asking required admitting that she wasn't in control, that death was coming, and she couldn't schedule it. So she demanded. She bullied. She turned her fear into greed because greed was a weapon she knew how to wield. I felt a crack in my anger. Not a break, but a fissure. It didn't excuse the theft. It didn't excuse the erasure of my name. But it made them human, and that was almost worse. "Dad," I said softly, "I am glad you are coming to the party." Hank looked at the camera. His eyes were watery. "I am glad you bought that house, Bree. I want you to know that." "Thank you. Don't let anyone take it from you." He looked directly into the lens then, and for a second the fog cleared. He wasn't the enabler. He wasn't the silent partner. He was my father, warning me. I heard the sound of a car door slamming through the phone speaker. Hank jumped. "She is back," he whispered. "I have to go." The screen went black before I could say goodbye. I sat there holding the phone, listening to the ocean outside, thinking about the pill bottle hidden under a magazine and the secrets we keep to survive the people we love. By Wednesday, the silence in the villa had changed texture. It wasn't empty anymore. It was waiting. I sat in my office with the phone on speaker. Margot was on the line from her office, and Travis was calling in from his truck parked somewhere in a lot in Greenfield where Jolene wouldn't see him. "I got the files," Travis said. His voice sounded thin, exhausted. I uploaded them to the secure folder Margot set up. "Good man," Margot said. "Walk us through what we are looking at." Travis exhaled. There was a rustle of paper on his end. "I put a nanny cam in the kitchen," he said. "Told Jolene it was for security. She didn't question it. And I caught her yesterday afternoon, on the phone with Cade, drinking wine at 2 in the afternoon. I clicked on the video file. The angle was wide, a fisheye view of my sister's kitchen. There she was, Jolene in a silk robe, wine glass in hand, twirling a strand of highlighted hair around her finger. I pressed play. Her voice filled my office, tinny but unmistakable. "He is clueless, Cade. Honestly, it is pathetic." A pause while the man on the other end spoke. No, Bree is even worse. She is so stupid she doesn't even check her credit. I have had those cards for over a year. She is too busy saving the whales or whatever she does to notice. I paused the video. The words hung in the air. So stupid. It wasn't the theft that made my hands go cold. It was the contempt, the casual, bored disdain in her voice. All those years I thought I was the supportive sister, the safety net, the one they turned to because they trusted me. I wasn't the safety net. I was the mark. Brie Margot's voice cut through the fog. Are you okay? I am fine, I said. My voice was steady. It surprised me. Keep playing. I clicked resume. Mom is handling it, Jolene said to the empty kitchen. She is going to guilt Bree into letting us have the house for the summer. Once we are in, we are in. Squatters' rights or whatever. We just need to get the keys. Travis's voice came back over the line. She said that while I was at work, while I was trying to figure out how to pay the electric bill so the lights wouldn't get cut off. This is excellent, Margot said. Her tone was clinical precise. We have video evidence of her admitting to the credit fraud, admitting to the manipulation of your mother, and admitting to the intent to occupy the property. It is admissible because it is a recording in a common area of her own home captured by a resident of that home. It is brutal, I said. It is accurate, Margot corrected. And for the presentation, we are going to need it all. I looked at the freeze frame of my sister's face. She looked happy. She looked light. She looked like a woman who had never paid a consequence in her life. One more thing, Travis said. I found the shoebox. Top shelf of the closet back behind her winter boots. She kept the original credit card applications. Why would she keep them? I asked. Travis sighed. Because she is proud of them, Bree. She has copies of your social security card, your birth certificate, everything. It wasn't just money. She was collecting you. Take photos Margot ordered. High resolution. Do not remove the originals yet. We want them to be there if the police need to execute a search warrant later. Already done, Travis said. I leaned back in my chair. I felt a strange detachment, like I was watching a documentary about someone else's life. Travis, I said. Thank you. Don't thank me, he said. If she finds out before Saturday, if she sees that camera... She won't, Margot said, because she thinks she is the smartest person in the room. Narcissists don't look for traps, Travis. They don't believe anyone would dare set one for them. On Wednesday evening, the sun was setting in a wash of gold and violet, casting long shadows across the deck. I sat at the outdoor table with a notepad and a pen, a physical pen heavy in my hand. I didn't want to type this list. I wanted to write it. I wanted to feel the ink bleed into the paper. Reed was down on the pier below, casting a line into the surf. I could hear the rhythmic whir-plop of the lure hitting the water. He was humming something low and country, a sound that grounded me. I looked at the blank page. The guest list. This wasn't a party. It was a jury. I wrote the first names, Donna and Hank Sutter, the defendants. Or maybe Donna was the co-conspirator and Hank was the reluctant witness. I wasn't sure yet. Jolene and Travis Briggs, the accused and the star witness. Then I started adding the others. I chose them with the precision of a sniper. Aunt Ruth and Uncle Dale. Ruth was the family broadcaster. She was the one Donna bragged to, the one who held the repository of all Donna's lies. She needed to be there to hear the correction. Mrs. Bellamy and the Prestons, Donna's church friends, the social currency of Greenfield, Indiana. Donna valued Mrs. Bellamy's opinion more than she valued oxygen. If Mrs. Bellamy saw the truth, Donna couldn't spin it. Donna couldn't pretend it didn't happen. Shame is a powerful solvent, and Mrs. Bellamy was the acid. Margot Kincaid. Billed as my friend, armed as my lawyer. Dr. Patel, my colleague from NOAA. I needed him there to casually mention my grant funding, my salary, the hard numbers of my career. He was the counterweight to the Hank helped her narrative. Reed came up the stairs carrying 2 cold beers. He set one down next to my notepad. That is a lot of names, he said, looking at the list. 30, I said. That is 30 people to deceive Bree. I picked up the beer. The condensation was cold against my palm. I am not deceiving them, I said. I am inviting them to a party. There will be food, there will be music, there will be a tour of the house. The presentation is the only surprise. Reed leaned against the railing. You sure about this? I circled Donna's name, then underlined it twice. The ink tore the paper. Once you ring that bell, Reed said you can't unring it. I looked at the list. 30 witnesses. 30 people who would walk in expecting a coronation and walk out having seen an execution. Let them come. Thursday morning, 2 days before the housewarming. I stood in Margot's office again. The blinds were drawn against the morning sun. Her laptop was open on the desk facing us. Ready, she asked. I nodded. She hit the spacebar. 6 slides of legitimate estate planning. Trusts, probate, tax liability. The font was Times New Roman. The background was beige. It was perfect. It was lethal. It was exactly the kind of thing Donna would preen over, nodding sagely to Mrs. Bellamy, pretending she understood the tax codes, proud that her daughter was discussing assets. And then came slide 7. Margot didn't say anything. She just clicked. The beige background vanished. In its place was a stark white screen with black text. Credit report discrepancies, unauthorized accounts. Below the header were 3 screenshots. The Capital One account, the Discover account, the Synchrony account. The balances were highlighted in red. The billing address, Jolene's address, was circled in yellow. It was shocking in its simplicity. No emotion, no accusations, just math. Next slide. Evidence of application. The handwriting on the forms. Jolene's looping J and her sharp, jagged S. My social security number written in her hand. Next slide. The video file. A thumbnail of Jolene and her kitchen wineglass in hand. Next slide. The side-by-side comparison. On the left, Donna's quote to Aunt Ruth about Hank paying the down payment. On the right, my NOAA grant, receipts, my bank transfer records, my mortgage approval. The lie and the truth sitting next to each other, impossible to reconcile. It is brutal, I said again. Margot closed the laptop. The screen went black, leaving us with our reflections in the dark glass. It is 12 slides, Bree. 12 steps between the story they tell and the truth you live. I stood up. My knees felt steady. My hands were dry. Everything is ready, I asked. The caterer is confirmed, Margot said. The string quartet is booked. The police report was filed this morning. We have the element of surprise, we have the moral high ground, and we have the receipts. I walked to the window and peered through the slats of the blinds. Down on the street, tourists were walking by with ice cream cones, oblivious. Life was normal out there. Inside my head, the clock was ticking down. Saturday, I whispered. Saturday. Margot agreed. I drove home in silence. The villa waited for me, rising from the dunes like a fortress. The trap was set. Jolene and Donna were driving down I-95 right now, talking about beach days, driving straight toward the wall I had built for them. I stepped out into the salt air, and for the first time in my life, I didn't look back. The rental minivan crunched over the gravel driveway at exactly 4:17 on Thursday afternoon. I stood on the front porch watching the dust settle around the tires. It was a gray Honda Odyssey with Indiana plates and a layer of road grime that spoke of the 12-hour drive. The engine ticked as it died, and for a split second, there was silence. Then the doors slid open and the noise poured out. The beach. The beach. Cody and Lily tumbled onto the grass, limbs stiff from the car, but energized by the salt air. They were louder than I remembered, bigger too. Cody was 10 now, all knees and elbows, and Lily was 7, clutching a tablet like a shield. Jolene stepped out of the passenger seat. She stretched, arching her back, and adjusted her sunglasses. She was wearing white linen pants and a flowy top that looked effortless but probably cost $200. She didn't look like a woman facing eviction. She didn't look like a woman who had just spent 12 hours in a car with 2 children and her parents. She looked like she was arriving at a photo shoot. She held up her phone, panning across the front of the villa, catching the late afternoon light hitting the cedar shakes. "Bree," she screamed. She ran up the steps, her sandals slapping against the wood. I braced myself. She threw her arms around me, hugging me tight, rocking us back and forth. I smelled her expensive vanilla perfume and the stale scent of car air conditioning. "Oh my God, sis, it is gorgeous!" she squealed right in my ear. She pulled back, holding my shoulders, her eyes scanning my face but looking just past me, checking her reflection in the storm door glass. "I am so proud of you." I smiled. It felt like the skin on my face was too tight. "Thanks, Joe," I said. "I am glad you made it." "Family is everything, right?" "Mom," Jolene called out over her shoulder. Donna was climbing out of the middle row, smoothing the wrinkles from her khaki capris. She looked at the house. She didn't look at me. She looked at the roofline, the windows, the porch railings. She was an appraiser, not a guest. "Well," she said, walking up the steps, "you have done well for yourself, Bree. The porch railing looks a little weathered, but the bones seem good." "Hello to you too, Mom." She pecked my cheek. Her lips were dry. Hank grabbed the big cooler. She shouted back at the car. "And be careful with my casserole dish." Hank emerged from the back. He looked smaller than the last time I saw him. His shoulders were hunched and he moved with a slow, deliberate caution, like he was walking on ice. He caught my eye and gave a small, tired nod. "Hey, Dad. Hey, kiddo." "Let's get you guys settled," I said. I led them inside. This was the performance. This was the role I had been rehearsing for 2 weeks. The gracious hostess, the welcoming sister, the mark. Jolene didn't just walk through the house. She auditioned it. She ran her hand along the quartz countertop in the kitchen. She opened the pantry door and peered inside. She stood in the center of the living room, hands on her hips, nodding slowly. "This open concept is amazing," she said. "But you know what would look great right here? A big rustic farmhouse table. Something distressed." "I have a table coming," I said. "Oh, I know, but I mean for the vibe," she said. "And this light? It is a little cold. We should swap these bulbs for something warmer." She walked into the master bedroom. My bedroom. She stood at the foot of the bed and looked out the sliding glass doors at the ocean. "Wow," she breathed. "This is the room. It is my room, Joe." Right, of course," she said, turning to me with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "I just mean, the view. It is wasted on sleeping, isn't it? It would make such a great playroom for the kids during the day." I didn't answer. I just kept the smile plastered on my face. Travis came in last, carrying 3 suitcases. He looked exhausted. There were dark circles under his eyes, and his flannel shirt hung loose on his frame. He set the bags down in the hallway. He looked at me for 1 second, just a flicker of eye contact, and gave a microscopic nod. "I am here. I am holding it together." By sunset, they had colonized the place. Donna was in the kitchen reorganizing my spice drawer because alphabetical order made no sense to her. Jolene was on the deck with a glass of my wine filming the sunset. The kids were throwing throw pillows at each other. I found Hank standing on the far edge of the deck, looking out at the dark water. The wind was whipping his thin gray hair. "It is something, Bree," he said without turning around. "Yeah," I said. "You earned this." 3 words. He said them quietly to the ocean, not to me. But I heard them. My throat tightened. He coughed, then a deep, rattling sound that shook his whole frame. He gripped the railing, his knuckles turning white. He didn't look at me. He waited until the fit passed, took a shallow breath, and wiped his mouth with a handkerchief he pulled from his back pocket. "You okay?" I asked. "Fine," he wheezed. "Just the sea air." He turned and walked back inside past the daughter who bought the house toward the wife who claimed she did. Hi. Friday broke with a sky so blue it looked painted. It was the perfect beach day, the kind of day realtors pray for. The humidity was low, the breeze was steady, and the ocean was a sparkling, inviting turquoise. And it was terrifying, because it felt real. By noon, the seduction of the happy family fantasy was in full swing. Cody and Lily were in the pool, shrieking with joy, diving for colored rings. Travis was in the shallow end, tossing Lily into the air, making her laugh that deep belly laugh that only fathers can extract. Hank was dozing in a deck chair with a hat pulled over his eyes. Even Donna seemed at peace. She was moving through the kitchen, making potato salad for lunch, humming a hymn. She wasn't criticizing. She wasn't correcting. She was just existing. See, a voice in my head whispered, "This is nice. You could have this. Just let them have the house for the summer. Just pay the credit cards. Is $47,000 worth burning this down?" I stood by the sliding door watching them. Jolene was on a chaise lounge phone held high, filming and posting. I didn't need to check the caption. I already knew the hashtags. Hashtag sister vibes. Hashtag family first. Lies broadcast to 3,000 bots and 12 real people. Donna came up beside me, wiping her hands on a dish towel. She looked out at the pool, at the grandchildren playing, at Jolene lounging. Her face softened. "Isn't this nice, Bree?" she asked. "It is, Mom." "This is what this house is for," she said. "Families together." I looked at her. She didn't say your house. She just said this house. Like it was a public park. Like it was a natural resource she had discovered and claimed. "I am glad you came around," she continued, lowering her voice. "You were being so stubborn on that phone call." "I was," I said. "Well," she said, patting my arm, "tomorrow will be lovely. I told Mrs. Bellamy to wear her nice blue dress. She is very excited to see what we have done with the place." "What we have done." I smiled. It was getting easier to smile. The muscles were remembering the shape of the lie. Reed arrived at 5 with a cooler full of red drum and shrimp. He fired up the grill on the lower deck. The smell of charcoal and searing seafood drifted up, mixing with the chlorine and the sunscreen. We ate outside at the long teak table. The sun went down, turning the sky the color of a fresh bruise. Reed had grilled the fish perfectly flaky and sweet. I had made a salad. Donna had made her potato salad, which was heavy on the mayo and the judgment. Jolene disappeared into the kitchen and came back with a bottle of wine. It was a Camus Cabernet, a bottle that cost $90. I knew she hadn't bought it with cash. I knew exactly whose name was on the credit card that paid for it. She popped the cork with a flourish and poured glasses for everyone. She stood up, raising her glass. The string lights reflected in the dark liquid. "To Bree," she said. Her voice was thick with emotion. "For being generous enough to share this beautiful home with her family. To new memories." Everyone raised their glasses. "Hear, hear," Donna said. I raised mine. I looked at my sister. Her cheeks were flushed. Her eyes were bright. She looked happy. She looked like she believed her own press release. Share. She used the word like a weapon. Not host. Not invite. Share. I drank the wine. It was rich and velvety. It tasted like theft. Later, after the kids were asleep and the grandparents had retired to the guest room, I sat on the upper deck alone. The house was quiet. The ocean was black and loud. My phone buzzed in my lap. A text from Travis. He was downstairs in the guest room with Jolene. She is asleep. Her phone is charging in the kitchen. She texted Cade twice during dinner. I looked at the screen. "Everything still a go?" he asked. I looked at the sliding glass door. I could see my reflection. I looked tired. I looked like a woman who was about to blow up her life. "Everything is a go," I typed. "Good night, Travis." "Good night. And Bree, thank you for believing me." I put the phone down. Below me, the waves crashed against the shore, eating away the sand, reshaping the coast, one violent impact at a time. Tomorrow. Tomorrow, Mrs. Bellamy would wear her blue dress. Tomorrow, 30 people would arrive with gifts and cards. Tomorrow, the string quartet would play Mozart. And tomorrow, I would burn the fantasy to the ground. The crack in the foundation didn't happen with a bang. It happened with a whisper at 2 a.m. I woke up to the sound of voices. They were muffled, vibrating through the shared wall between my bedroom and the guest suite, pitched at that specific, terrifying frequency of an argument trying to stay hidden. It wasn't the sound of people talking. It was the sound of compressed rage, like steam hissing from a pipe just before it bursts. I slid out of bed. The floor was cold against my bare feet. I didn't turn on a lamp. I walked to the hallway, moving slowly, stepping on the edges of the floorboards where I knew they wouldn't creak. The house was dark, the only light coming from the gap under the guest bedroom door. I pressed my back against the wall. I wasn't eavesdropping. I was confirming a threat. "Why is your phone locked?" It was Jolene. Her voice was a serrated edge stripped of the sweet sing-song cadence she used for Instagram stories. "Everyone locks their phone." "Jolene," Travis whispered back. He sounded exhausted. "Open it." "No. Open it, or I swear to God, Travis, I will wake up my mother. Or what you will call Cade." Silence followed. It was a heavy, suffocating silence that sucked the air out of the hallway. I held my breath, my hand pressed flat against the drywall, feeling the thud of my own pulse in my fingertips. "What did you say?" Jolene hissed. "You heard me. You went through my phone. I didn't have to. You leave it face up on the counter every time he texts. You leave it on the charger when you shower. You think I am blind." The rustle of sheets. Footsteps pacing the small room. Then Jolene's voice changed. It shifted from defensive to offensive in a heartbeat, a maneuver I had watched her perfect since we were teenagers. "You are spying on me, in my own sister's house. How dare you? I am dealing with the stress of this move, trying to keep this family together, and you are violating my privacy. Your sister's house that you want to take." Travis shot back, "While spending money in her name. Don't you dare bring that up. That is family business. Family business is exactly what this is." Then the pacing stopped. The silence returned, but it was sharper now, more dangerous. "Have you been talking to Bree?" The question hung in the dark hallway. What Travis said. The delay was a fraction of a second too long. "You heard me. Have you been talking to my sister?" "I barely know your sister. You are lying. You have that look. You have been different since she called about the party. You are walking around like you are waiting for something. What did you tell her?" I squeezed my eyes shut. Standing there in the dark, I felt a cold prickle of sweat down my spine. Jolene didn't know. Not for sure. But her instincts were predatory. She had spent her entire life reading rooms, sensing weakness, calculating the gap between what people said and what they meant. She was detecting a frequency I thought we had hidden. Travis muttered something I couldn't catch. He was deflecting. Jolene didn't push it further. Or maybe she did, and they dropped their voices lower. The argument died the way marital fights often do in the middle of the night, not with resolution, but with exhaustion. The light under the door clicked off. I crept back to my room. I picked up my phone. The screen was blindingly bright in the darkness. "Jolene may suspect Travis," I typed to Margot. She asked him directly if he is talking to me. He denied it, but she is not convinced. What do we do? It was 2:47 in the morning. Margot replied at 2:51. "Lawyers apparently sleep as little as the guilty. We accelerate. The party is tonight. Do not change anything visible." But brief Travis. He needs to be the devoted husband for 16 more hours. Can he do that? I stared at the blinking cursor. I don't know. Find out Margot wrote. I didn't sleep for the rest of the night. I lay in bed listening to the ocean and waiting for the sun to rise on the day that was supposed to be my victory, but was starting to feel like an ambush. Saturday morning arrived with aggressive cheerfulness. The sun poured into the kitchen, bouncing off the white quartz and the stainless steel appliances. By 8 o'clock, the house smelled of coffee and bacon. Donna was at the stove flipping pancakes. Hank was on the deck with the newspaper. Cody and Lily were watching cartoons on a tablet at the island. It looked like a commercial for the perfect family vacation. I walked in. I was wearing my armor, a sundress, and a smile that felt stapled to my face. "Good morning," Donna chirped. She didn't ask if I wanted to cook in my own kitchen. She just handed me a plate. "Blueberry pancakes. Your favorite." "Thanks, Mom." Jolene walked in a moment later. She was wearing a silk kimono and her hair was already perfectly waved. She poured herself a cup of coffee black and leaned against the counter. She didn't look at the ocean. She looked at Travis, who was scrambling eggs at the stove, his back to the room. Then she looked at me. Her eyes were scanning. She wasn't looking at my face. She was looking at the space between me and her husband. She was measuring the tension in the air. So she said, her voice bright and brittle, "What is the plan for today, before the big party?" "Beach in the morning," I said, sitting down at the island. "Party prep in the afternoon. The caterer arrives at 4. "And what is this presentation Mom keeps talking about?" My heart rate kicked up a notch. I took a sip of coffee to hide my hands. "Just a little thing Margot put together. Family trust stuff. Estate planning. Boring but important. Margot being your lawyer friend, Funny you would invite your lawyer to a housewarming." "She is a friend first," I said. "Lawyer second." Jolene nodded slowly. She took a sip of her coffee, her eyes never leaving mine. She set the mug down on the counter with a deliberate clink. She ran one manicured finger around the rim. "Well, we wouldn't want to miss anything important." She turned away, then focusing on Lily's hair, but the message had been delivered. She was watching. She was cataloging. She knew the pieces on the board were moving, even if she couldn't see the whole game yet. I caught Travis in the laundry room 20 minutes later. He was pretending to look for pool towels. His face was pale, the skin around his eyes tight. "She asked about Margot," I whispered. "She asked me again this morning," he hissed back. "While you were in the shower, she asked if I trust you." "What did you say?" I said. "She is your sister Jo. Why wouldn't I?" "Can you hold it together for 10 more hours?" He looked at me with eyes that were bloodshot and desperate. He looked like a man standing on a trap door waiting for the lever to pull. "I will try," he said. By 2 o'clock the house was humming with nervous energy. The caterer's van had pulled into the driveway. The string quartet was setting up on the lower deck. I was in my bedroom checking the presentation file on my laptop for the 100th time when the door opened. There was no knock. Donna walked in and closed the door behind her. She stood with her arms crossed over her chest, blocking the exit. Her posture wasn't casual. It was the stance she used when she had decided on a course of action and was simply waiting for the world to comply. "We need to talk about something," she said. Privately. "Okay," I said. I minimized the presentation file. "Jolene is going through a difficult time. Travis is being difficult. Their marriage is struggling." I said nothing. I waited. "I think what Jolene needs right now is stability," Donna continued. "Somewhere she can bring the kids and feel safe, somewhere away from Indiana." "Mom, I am not asking for the whole house, Bree. I am asking you to consider letting Jolene and the kids stay here. For a few months, maybe through the summer, while she gets back on her feet." And Travis Donna waved her hand dismissively. "Travis can figure out his own situation." She framed it as maternal concern, but the subtext was ownership. She believed Jolene deserved this house because Jolene had children, and I didn't. In Donna's world, biology was the only currency that mattered. "You live alone, Bree. This house has 3 bedrooms. It is wasteful." "It is mine," I said. "Everything is always about you, isn't it?" There it was, the Donna pivot. If I had boundaries, I was selfish. If I had achievements, I was arrogant. If I said no, I was ungrateful. I stood up. I walked over to the window. "Mom, I said no 2 weeks ago on the phone, and I am saying no now. This house is mine. Jolene is not moving in." Donna stared at me. Her face went cold. Then I hope your party tonight is worth it, she said. Because if this is how you want to treat family, it is. She didn't leave immediately. She looked at me, really looked at me, and for the first time I saw suspicion flicker behind her eyes. It mirrored the look Jolene had given me at breakfast. They were the same animals sniffing the wind, sensing a trap. What are you planning, Bree? A housewarming, Mom. Just a housewarming. She turned and walked out. I sat down on the edge of the bed. My hands were trembling, not from fear, but from the sheer effort of not screaming. My phone buzzed. It was Travis. Garage. Now. I went down the back stairs. The garage was hot and smelled of concrete dust and the motor oil from the old lawnmower I had inherited with the house. The fluorescent light buzzed overhead, casting a harsh, sickly glow. Travis was standing with his back against the wall, arms crossed tight against his chest. He looked like he hadn't slept in a week. She knows, he said. What? Not everything. But she knows about you and me. She went through my phone while I was in the shower. I thought you locked it. She knows my passcode. Bree, it is the kids' birthdays. She tried it. My stomach dropped. She found the Proton Mail app. She found the icon. She couldn't get into the app itself, but she saw it. And she knows. She knows I don't use encrypted email for work. She confronted me 20 minutes ago upstairs while you were on the deck with the caterer. I leaned against the workbench. The cool metal pressed into my back. What did she say? She said, "You are helping her destroy me, aren't you?" What did you say? I said no. I said it was for a side job. She didn't believe me. Is she going to run? I asked. Is she packing the car? No. Travis looked up at me. His face was grim. That is the thing. She is not running. She is getting ready. She went upstairs and started doing her makeup, like she is preparing for war. I closed my eyes. Of course she was. Jolene never ran. She fought. She manipulated. She spun. What else, I asked. She told your mother. She said, Mom, I think Bree is planning something tonight. I think she is trying to embarrass me. And your mama said... Travis swallowed hard. Your mama said, Don't worry, sweetie, I won't let her. The air left my lungs. The plan relied on surprise. It relied on the shock of the evidence hitting them before they could build a defense, before they could construct a narrative where I was the villain and Jolene was the victim. Now they were ready. They were allied, mother and golden child locking shields against the scapegoat. Travis, I said. I am sorry, Bree. I tried. I know. What do we do? Cancel it. I looked around the garage. My kayak was hanging on the wall. Boxes of books were stacked in the corner. This was my house. My life. Cancel it. Pack up the slides. Return the presentation laptop. Tell Margot never mind. Go back to being the silent daughter who writes checks and swallows hurt. Go back to being the woman whose mother tells everyone her house was a gift. Or walk into that living room knowing they know. Knowing it won't be a presentation. Knowing it will be a fight. A messy, ugly public brawl in front of 30 people. Something died in me right then. The fantasy of the clean victory. The dream of the perfect mic drop. That was gone. What was left was raw. Harder. No, I said. We don't cancel. But I know she knows. She doesn't know what I have. She suspects, but she hasn't seen the evidence, and evidence doesn't care if you are ready for it. I looked at Travis. Are you still willing to stand up in that room and tell the truth? Travis took a deep breath. He uncrossed his arms. For my kids? Yes. Then we go. He nodded. His hands were steady now. The fear had burned off, leaving only the grim resolve of a man who had nothing left to lose. I walked out of the garage and back into the house. The string quartet was tuning their instruments. The caterers were setting out trays of shrimp. 2 hours. In 2 hours, 30 people would walk through my front door, and my sister would be waiting for me, painted and primed, standing next to my mother, ready to burn me down in my own home. I checked my watch. 4:45. I needed a new plan. I walked out the back door and kept walking. I crossed the wooden deck, stepped down onto the dunes, and pushed through the sea oats until my feet hit the sand. It was cold. The sun was dipping low, casting long, bruised shadows across the beach, but the heat of the day had already evaporated. I walked until the house was just a shape in my peripheral vision, a towering structure of cedar and glass that I had spent 13 years sweating for. I walked until the only sound was the Atlantic Ocean crashing against the shore with a violent, rhythmic indifference. The ocean didn't care about credit card fraud. It didn't care about family narratives or mothers who loved their children conditionally. It just beat against the land over and over, eroding the edges of everything it touched. I stopped at the surf line. A horseshoe crab lay upside down near my feet, its prehistoric legs stiff in the air. Overturned. Exposed. Dead. I looked at it and I felt a kinship that made my stomach turn. What was I actually doing? I was 2 hours away from throwing a party designed to publicly humiliate my sister. I was planning to stand in front of 30 people, my cousins, my father, Mrs. Bellamy from the church choir, and detonate a bomb. I wanted to see Jolene's face drain of color. I wanted to see Donna stutter and fail to find the right spin. I wanted the gasps. I wanted the vindication. But standing there with the salt spray stinging my face, the fantasy crumbled. It crumbled because I knew them. I knew them better than I knew myself. If I ambushed them, if I prosecuted them like a lawyer in a courtroom, Donna wouldn't break. She would harden. She would leave that party and rewrite the story before she even started the car. Bree ambushed us. Bree is cruel. Bree hates her own sister. And people would believe her because people want to believe mothers. They want to believe that families are safe harbors, not battlegrounds. I would win the argument and lose the war. I would get my revenge, but I would lose my soul. I would become exactly what Donna always said I was. Difficult. Cold. Ungrateful. I watched a wave recede, dragging shells and pebbles back into the deep. Reed had asked me what I was fighting for. I wasn't fighting for Donna's apology. She didn't have it to give. Asking Donna to admit she was wrong was like asking a shark to apologize for bleeding in the water. It wasn't in her biology. I wasn't fighting for Jolene's shame. Jolene would just convert shame into victimhood. She was an alchemist of pain. She could turn any consequence into a sob story about how hard she tried. So what was left me? I was fighting for me. I was fighting for the right to stand in a room and say that this happened. That this is true, that I did not imagine it, that I did not exaggerate it, that I did not deserve it. I didn't need them to agree with me. I didn't need a verdict. I just needed to say it out loud in my own voice without apologizing for the volume. The want died on that beach. The desperate, clawing want for my mother to look at me and see me. It drowned in the gray water. And in its place, a need was born. A simple, quiet need to be the narrator of my own life. I turned around. The house was glowing in the distance. Someone Reed probably had turned on the string lights early. It looked like a lantern against the darkening sky. A beacon. My house. I pulled my phone from my pocket and dialed Margot. "Change of plan," I said. The wind whipped my hair across my face. "We are canceling," Margot asked. Her voice was sharp. "No, we are not canceling. The presentation stays. The evidence stays. But I am not asking you to prosecute her, Margot." "Then what are you asking me to do?" "I am asking you to present. Calmly. Factually. Like a weather report. No dramatics. No gotcha moments. Just the truth. And if Jolene fights back, the evidence will answer for itself," I said. "And so will I." There was a pause on the line. I could hear the rustle of papers in the background. "That is the smartest thing you have said in 2 weeks, Bree." I hung up and walked back toward the dunes. My footprints stretched out behind me, deep and uneven in the sand, but the tide was already coming in to wash them away. I found Hank on the deck. He was standing alone at the railing, a beer in his hand that he hadn't opened. The condensation was dripping down his knuckles. He was staring at the horizon with the focused intensity of a man trying to memorize the light. Inside, I could hear the hum of a hairdryer. Donna was getting ready. She was putting on her armor. I walked up beside him. He didn't turn. He looked smaller than I remembered, his shoulders curving inward as if he were trying to occupy less space in the world. "Dad," I said. He blinked, pulling himself back from wherever he had been. "Hey, kiddo, what is wrong with you?" He started to shake his head. "Just a cold brie. I told you. Don't I said?" My voice was soft, but it held the weight of the ocean I had just walked away from. "Do not say it is a cold, not tonight." He looked at me then, really looked at me. His eyes were the same brown as mine, but cloudy, tired. He turned the beer can in his hands round and round. "Cardiac thing," he said. The words came out rusty. "Arrhythmia. The doctor wants to do a procedure." "How long? 6 months." I gripped the railing. 6 months. While I was worrying about grant applications and house closings, his heart was stuttering in his chest. "Does Mom know?" "Your mother knows what she wants to know," Hank said. He looked back at the water. "She knows the diagnosis, but she doesn't know how to handle the fear, so she handles everything else instead." I stared at his profile. The pieces clicked into place, locking with a sad, heavy finality. The villa. The demand for the guest agreement. It wasn't just about Jolene. It was about him. Donna was terrified. She was watching her husband fade in that dark house in Indiana, and she wanted him somewhere with sea air and sunlight. But she couldn't ask. Asking meant admitting that death was in the room. Asking meant admitting she was powerless. So she demanded. She bullied. She tried to seize the house because seizing felt like control and asking felt like surrender. It didn't excuse the theft. It didn't excuse the cruelty. But it made her human, and that was almost worse. It is easier to fight a monster than a terrified woman doing monstrous things. "So the villa," I said. "This was about you. It was about your mother being scared and not knowing how to say it," he said. "So she said everything else instead." He took a breath, and I heard the rattle in his chest again. "Bree," he said, "whatever you are planning tonight, and I know you are planning something because I am old, but I am not blind. Be careful with your mother. I am not trying to hurt her dad, I know. But she will be hurt anyway. Truth hurts people who have spent 40 years building a life out of stories." He reached out and squeezed my hand. His skin was dry, his grip surprisingly strong. "Just leave a door open," he whispered. "For later, if she ever learns how to walk through it." I leaned over and kissed his forehead. It smelled of old spice and salt. "I will, Dad. That is my girl." I left him on the deck and walked into the kitchen. It was a war room. Margot had set up shop on the quartz island. Her laptop was open, folders were spread out in neat, intimidating piles. A portable speaker system was plugged in on the counter. Travis stood in the corner, arms crossed, staring at the floor. Reed was leaning against the refrigerator, drinking a glass of water. He didn't know the full plan, but he knew enough to be standing guard. The caterer was in the living room, setting up chafing dishes. Through the open window, I could hear the string quartet warming up, a dissonant scrape of bow against strings that sounded like nerves made audible. I walked to the island. Margot looked up. Travis straightened. "New approach," I said. Travis looked panic-stricken. "We are canceling, no. But we are pivoting. Jolene knows something is coming. Donna has been warned. They are expecting an ambush. They are expecting a fight. So we do not give them one." Margot took off her glasses. "Walk me through it. The presentation starts exactly the way we planned," I said. "Family trust. Estate planning. Slides 1 through 6 are boring, legitimate. We lull them into a sense of security. By slide 6, Donna will be relaxed, Mrs. Bellamy will be checking her phone. Jolene will be smiling because she thinks she survived. And slide 7? Margot asked. Slide 7, you say? Before I continue, there is a matter that affects the family trust that needs to be addressed. And then you present the credit report. I looked at Travis. Calmly, I said, "No accusations. Just data. We are not prosecutors tonight. We are auditors." And when Jolene starts yelling, Travis asked, "Because she will yell. She will cry. She will make a scene. She will try," I said. "But here is the difference from the old plan. I am going to speak. Not you, Margot. Not you, Travis. Me." I put my hands on the counter. They were steady. "I am going to stand in my living room and talk to my family. I am going to talk about 12 years of financial support. I am going to talk about the lie at the barbecue. I am going to talk about the credit cards. I am not going to scream. I am not going to perform. I am just going to say what happened." Margot nodded slowly. "It changes the energy. It moves it from legal attack to personal testimony." "Exactly." "And if Donna tries to shut it down," Reed asked from the fridge, "then 30 people will see her try to shut down the truth," I said. "And that is evidence too." I looked at the clock on the microwave. 6:15. 45 minutes. "Travis," I said, "are you ready?" He took a deep breath. "I am ready." "Margot." "Loaded and ready," she said. I looked at Reed. He pushed off the fridge and walked over to me. He put a hand on my shoulder, solid and warm. "You sure about this, Bree?" he asked. "No," I said. "I am not sure. But I am done waiting to be sure." I went upstairs to change. I took off the sundress and put on a navy blue sheath dress. It was simple, unadorned, no armor, no costume. I looked in the mirror. I didn't see the scapegoat. I didn't see the ATM. I saw a woman who had bought a house by the ocean and was finally ready to inhabit it. I walked back downstairs. The first car pulled into the driveway at 6:47. Through the front window, I saw a silver Buick. Aunt Ruth. I smoothed my dress. I walked to the front door. I unlocked the deadbolt. Showtime. The living room filled up faster than I expected. By 7:15, the air was thick with the smell of shrimp boil and expensive perfume. The string quartet was playing something light and inconsequential on the deck, but inside the noise was all Donna. She was working the room like a politician in the final days of a campaign. She guided Mrs. Bellamy to the plush armchair in the front row, touching her elbow, pointing out the crown, molding her voice, pitching high and bright. I stood near the kitchen island, holding a glass of sparkling water I hadn't taken a sip of. I watched the room. It was a map of my life drawn in people. There was Aunt Ruth wearing a floral blouse that seemed too cheerful for an execution. There was Uncle Dale already eyeing the beer cooler. There was Dr. Patel from NOAA looking politely confused about why he had been invited to a family estate planning session. And there was Jolene. She was standing near the fireplace holding a glass of my Cabernet. She was smiling, but her eyes were darting around the room tracking movements. She looked tight, coiled. Every time Travis walked past her, she tracked him, her smile slipping just a fraction. I walked over to Aunt Ruth. She hugged me, smelling of lavender and hairspray. "This is wonderful, Bree," she said. "I am so proud of you." "Thank you, Aunt Ruth." She leaned in, lowering her voice to a conspiratorial whisper. "Your mother has been telling everyone Hank helped with the down payment." "Did he?" I looked at her. Ruth had been listening to Donna's stories for 40 years. She knew where the cracks were. "No, Aunt Ruth," I said. "He didn't." Ruth pulled back. She studied my face for a second, then nodded. "I didn't think so," she said. I checked my watch. 7:28. Margot caught my eye from the corner of the room. She was standing next to the 55-inch television we had mounted on the wall, her laptop connected a remote in her hand. She raised her eyebrows. I nodded. Could everyone find a seat? I called out. My voice was steady. I would like to start the presentation. The room shuffled. Chairs scraped against the hardwood. Ice clinked in glasses. Donna took her seat next to Mrs. Bellamy, smoothing her skirt, beaming at the room as if she were the one about to receive an award. Jolene sat in the second row, crossing her legs, her foot bouncing in a rapid, nervous rhythm. Margot stepped forward. She was professional, clinical, the perfect picture of legal boredom. "Good evening," she said. "I am Margot Kincaid. Bree asked me to put together a brief overview of the Sutter Family Trust and some estate planning basics. It is not the most exciting topic for a party, but protecting family assets is important." She clicked the remote. Slide 1. The Sutter Family Trust. Slide 2. Understanding probate. I watched the room. It worked exactly as we planned. Uncle Dale stifled a yawn. Mrs. Bellamy politely checked her watch. Donna nodded along sagely, pretending she understood the tax implications of a grantor trust, performing the role of the knowledgeable matriarch. Jolene took a long sip of wine, her shoulders dropping an inch. She thought she was safe. She thought this was just Bree being boring, responsible Bree. Margot went through 4 more slides. Legitimate, dull financial planning. The tension in the room dissipated, replaced by the collective glaze of boredom. Then Margot stopped. She looked at the laptop screen, then up at the room. Before we continue, she said, her tone shifting just enough to cut through the low hum of the room. "There is a financial matter that directly affects the integrity of this family's assets. It involves accounts opened in Bree's name without her authorization." She clicked the remote. Slide 7. The beige background was gone. In its place was a stark white slide with black text. Credit report, unauthorized accounts, 3 credit cards, 3 balances totaling $47,000, and 1 billing address highlighted in yellow, 1847, Maple Court, Greenfield, Indiana. The room went silent. Not the silence of boredom, but the silence of a car crash before the glass settles. Donna stood up. "What is this?" she demanded. "This is ridiculous. Bree, turn this off." "Sit down, Mom," I said. "I will not sit down." "This is then stand," I said. "But listen." Margot clicked again. Slide 8. Copies of the credit card applications. Jolene's handwriting distinct and looping, filling out my social security number. Slide 9. A video file. It was the footage from the camera Travis had installed. Jolene in her kitchen holding a wine glass leaning against the counter. The sound filled the room, tinny but unmistakable. "Bree is so stupid she doesn't even check her credit. I have had those cards for over a year." A gasp rippled through the room. Mrs. Bellamy put a hand to her mouth. Aunt Ruth closed her eyes. Jolene stood up. Her face was white, her mouth working but making no sound. She looked at the screen, then at Travis, then at me. Slide 10. A side-by-side comparison. On the left, a quote Hank helped with the down payment. On the right, my bank statements, my grant letters, my salary history, every dollar accounted for. Not a penny from my parents. I walked to the front of the room. I stood next to the screen. I didn't look at the slides. I looked at my family. "I didn't put this together to humiliate my sister," I said. My voice was quiet, but in the dead silence of the room it carried to the back wall. "I put this together because for 12 years I have been the person this family calls when it needs money, when it needs someone to fly home and take care of Dad, when it needs a loan. And for 12 years the story that gets told about me is that I am difficult, that I am selfish, that I couldn't have done it without help." I looked at Donna. She was standing gripping the back of Mrs. Bellamy's chair, her knuckles white. "This house is mine," I said. "My name is mine. My credit is mine. And tonight the truth is mine too." I looked at Jolene. Jolene used my social security number to open credit cards. That is not a family disagreement. That is a federal crime. I have filed a police report. What happens next is between Jolene and the law. But what I want from this room, from all of you, is something simpler. I want you to know the truth, Not my version, not Mom's version, the documented truth. I stopped. The only sound was the hum of the refrigerator from the kitchen. Then Jolene screamed. It was a raw, jagged sound. She threw her wine glass. It shattered against the stone hearth of the fireplace, spraying glass and red wine across the floor. "I can't believe you would do this!" she shrieked. Her face was contorted, the mask of the influencer gone, revealing the terrified, furious child underneath. "In front of everyone, Bree, we are family." How could you? How could I asked. "Jolene, you stole my identity. I was desperate. Do you know what it is like having 2 kids and no money and a husband who is useless?" She spun around to face Travis, who was standing by the back door. "You did this," she spat. "You helped her. You spy. You traitor." "I helped the truth," Travis said. His voice was flat. Jolene turned to Donna. She reached out a hand, grasping. Mom, say something. Tell them this isn't fair. Tell them she is lying." Donna looked around the room. She saw Mrs. Bellamy staring at the floor. She saw the Prestons exchanging glances. She saw Aunt Ruth looking at her with a disappointment that was 40 years in the making. Donna straightened her spine. She smoothed her skirt. She retreated to the only high ground she knew. "Bree," she said, her voice trembling with suppressed rage. "This was unnecessary. Whatever problems Jolene may have had, there were private ways to handle this. You didn't need to humiliate your sister. You didn't need to drag our dirty laundry out for the world to see." Aunt Ruth stood up. "In front of the people you have been lying to?" Donna Ruth asked. Donna wheeled on her. "Ruth, stay out of this." "You told me Hank paid for this house," Ruth said. "You looked me in the eye and told me. That was a lie. What else have you been telling us?" Mrs. Bellamy stood up. She picked up her purse. She looked at Donna, and the expression on her face was one of polite, devastating finality. "Donna," she said, "I think we need to go." "Margaret, please," Donna started. "The Bree I just heard speak is not the Bree you have described to me for 20 years, Mrs. Bellamy said. She turned to me. "I am sorry this happened to you, sweetheart." Donna stood there. Her audience was leaving. Her narrative was dissolving. She opened her mouth to speak, to spin, to reclaim the room, but no words came out. Then Hank stood up. He pushed himself up from the armchair, his breathing audible in the quiet room. He walked to the center of the rug between Donna and me. "Bree," he said. "Yeah, Dad. I knew about the credit cards." The air left the room again. "Jolene told me 6 months ago," Hank said. He looked at the floor, then forced himself to look up. "She asked me to keep quiet, said she would pay them off, said she didn't want to worry your mother. I should have told you then. I didn't. And I am sorry." "Hank," Donna hissed. "Donna, sit down." The command was low, but it had iron in it. Donna looked at him stunned. For the first time in my life, I saw her hesitate. She sat. "I should have been braver," Hank said to the room. "I should have said something a long time ago, not just about the cards, about a lot of things." He turned to me. Tears were standing in his eyes, caught in the deep lines of his face. "You are the best thing I ever did, Bree. And I let your mother make you feel like you weren't." He coughed, a deep rattling sound that shook his chest. He pressed a hand to his sternum, wincing. "I am not well," he said, "and I am tired of pretending. About my health. About this family. About any of it." The party ended not with a bang, but with a slow, shuffling exit. Guests murmured goodbyes to me, touching my arm, avoiding Donna's eyes. They filed out into the warm night air. Jolene sat in her chair, staring at the shattered glass on the hearth. Her mascara was running dark streaks, cutting through her foundation. Travis walked over to her. "I packed the car," he said. "I am taking the kids to Raleigh, to my brother's." Jolene didn't look up. "You are stealing my children. I am protecting them," he said. "My lawyer filed for emergency custody Friday. You can talk to my lawyer on Monday." He turned to me. "Thank you, Bree." Go, I said. He walked out. Jolene sat for another minute, then stood up. She looked at me. There was no apology in her eyes, just a cold, hard assessment of the damage. What happens now? She asked. Legally, I said, that is between you and Margot, and us. There is no us right now, Jolene. There might be later, but not right now. She walked out the door. Donna was the last to leave. She stood by the door, her purse clutched tight to her chest. She looked old. The bright, sharp edges of her personality had dulled. She looked at the house one last time, not as an appraiser, but as someone who had been evicted. She didn't say goodbye. She just walked out. Hank followed her. He stopped at the threshold. He looked back at me. Leave the door open, Bree, he whispered. I will, Dad. I watched them get into the car. I watched the taillights fade down the driveway. I turned back to the empty room. The slides were still up on the screen. The truth. I walked to the mantel. I picked up the framed photo of my graduation that I had placed there earlier. I set it down next to the cluster of family photos Donna had arranged. My face finally on the wall. Then I saw it. Next to my diploma, propped against a vase, was a small, wallet-sized photo. The corners were bent. The colors were faded to sepia. I picked it up. It was a picture of a little girl on a beach. She was maybe 7 years old. She was holding a starfish with both hands grinning at the camera, her hair wild and windblown. I turned it over. On the back, in Hank's shaky script, Bree at Myrtle Beach, 1987. She found a starfish and wouldn't let it go. He had kept it, in his wallet, for 37 years. I felt a tear slide down my cheek. It wasn't a tear of sadness. It was a tear of release. Reed came in from the deck. He started picking up the wine glasses, moving quietly. Hell of a party, he said. Not what I planned, I said. Better, maybe. I don't know about better. You said what you needed to say, Reed said. Your daddy stood up. Aunt Ruth called it out. Mrs. Bellamy wants to know the real you. That is not nothing, Bree. Jolene didn't apologize. She won't. Not tonight. Maybe not ever. And Mom Reed paused, a glass in his hand. Your mama just lost her audience. That is her rock bottom. What she does with it, that is her journey. He walked over and kissed the top of my head. You okay? Ask me tomorrow. I will be here tomorrow. I know. I walked out to the deck. I turned off the string lights. The darkness rushed in, comfortable and cool. I walked down the stairs past the dunes onto the sand. The tide was high. The ocean was black and silver under the moon. I sat down at the water's edge. The foam rushed up and touched my bare feet. It was cold. It was real. No phone rang. No one asked for money. No one asked me to be smaller or quieter or more generous. I looked at the stars. I thought about the girl in the photo holding onto her starfish. She had been waiting a long time for me to come back and get her. I dug my toes into the wet sand. I am here, I whispered to the waves. I am here. And for the first time in 44 years, that was enough.